Welcome everyone to the 2024 Payments Canada Summit Digital Experience. I'm joined today by David Pitt, CEO of Pay.uk, which runs the UK's retail payments operations and is transforming the way that payments are delivered in the UK. David joined Pay.uk in July of 2021 and has a strong and successful track record delivering high-profile projects both in the UK and internationally. He has a great deal of experience leading organizations through periods of transformational change. Welcome, David. We are thrilled that you can join us today.
Thank you, and I hope everyone enjoys the summit, and thanks for giving me a chance to participate.
Great. Let's dive right in. And I'd like to start by hearing about some of your current activities and initiatives. What are your top priorities these days, David?
Well, first and foremost, it goes without saying, our main priority is to protect the robustness and resilience of critical national infrastructure, to ensure it's available all the time for our customers, end users. And to put it into context, we will transact about 11.5 billion transactions a year, roughly about 10 trillion pounds. So that works out to be about 29 million transactions per day across our payment rails. So first and foremost, it's about robustness and resilience, and protecting that on an ongoing basis. So managing that risk, managing that ongoing resilience, managing that systemic risk with the right mitigations and control. That's got to be our first focus. And then secondly, on top of that, it's about how do we improve. So we are going through a whole transformation program around our system, and how do we improve that for the future. So not only can we protect the resilience ongoing, but we can offer different opportunities for the market to improve competition, but also to improve choice and opportunity for end users.
So a lot going on just in the payments ecosystem in general. And I think a lot of similarities between the UK and Canada. The pace of change, somewhat difficult to keep up with at times. And I'm curious if you can just give us some insights and your thoughts on how has this pace of change impacted your organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think your point is very valid. Across the globe, change and pace of change is moving quicker and quicker, and we have to stay ahead. So for us, it's about thinking ahead, working closely with our banks, our customers, but also looking across the globe to see what changes could be coming ahead in the near future, and almost looking in that 3 to 5 year time horizon and planning accordingly. Now, that means we work closely with our regulators, as you would expect, but also closely with our customers, the banks, to really think about how we deliver change. Internally, it challenges around making sure you've got the right capabilities, the right capacity, but also you plan ahead. So, not waiting to change to be upon you and then thinking about the capabilities, but actually planning ahead. And I think that comes down to real good engagement, whether that's internally or externally, and then match that with real good planning. So change capabilities. And one of the things I think is important, getting back to managing that systemic risk, is thinking about how you deliver change. And is that part of BAU, or is it delivered to the operational? And one of the things we're doing is we have got a change team that complete the build, that almost deliver that change into the operational environment, that run the process. And I think it's really important, and we found a degree of success by doing that, so that you almost keep it engaged but separate, so you don't distract the day-to-day operation, but the day-to-day operation uses their skills and experience to scope out that change that the change team or experts are delivering. And I think that as you move forward, that pace of change almost requires that. And we talk a lot in Pay.uk that we only succeed by working collectively and working cross-functionally. And that's always a challenge in any business to crack that. So we do find ourselves on specific projects actually seconding colleagues with the right skills and experience into those projects. So again, they can give it a full focus in terms of that delivery.
It sounds like there's so many similarities between what you are experiencing and what we are navigating as well in our landscape. I just want to dive into one piece of this just really quickly, if you'll indulge me on this. So, when I think about capabilities within an organization and within organizations like ours that are really trying to balance that regulated, we're resiliency focused, there's safety and security that is so top of mind, yet looking to be somewhat innovative and agile and move quickly. So I think about those two sort of ends of the spectrum and trying to find the right types of people to join our organizations who can balance that. Have you had any struggles or success in trying to manage those two ends of the spectrum when it comes to your talent and retaining talent?
Yeah, so I think your point to start with, loads of similarities, right? And those drive a degree of challenge and opportunity. So if I just think about managing stakeholders, before I come on to how we manage resource and retention and attraction, if you think of managing those stakeholders, actually that's an opportunity, because by talking together about what we're trying to achieve, that builds up the requirements, builds up the clarity, but also indeed builds up excitement. And that excitement can lead to an attraction, and leads to attracting the right capabilities. So for us, we're very clear that we need the right capabilities to be able to deliver, but we also are very clear that we need to mitigate and control risk. But also, if you don't make change, you actually incur more risk because you stand still. And by standing still and everything else is moving forward, indeed, you end up going backwards. So it's really important that you strike this balance. And it does come back to, like I was alluding to, really good stakeholder engagement, really good planning, and then planning ahead for that capability, because you can't just click your fingers and have that capability. And that is important, that you then think about how you build that internally. And it doesn't just have to be an external search. It could be, helping colleagues internally to build new capabilities, which then helps you with retention. But also from that attraction piece, we're very clear that engagement's important. We focus a lot of effort on employee engagement. Uh, we focus a lot of effort on relationships internally and externally. And then that leads to discretionary effort. And that discretionary effort is really important to help us make sure we maintain our focus on robustness and resilience, but add to that with the change on top. And I think of it, we talk about it a lot, but I think about it very simply. It's almost like, if I refer back to, say, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you don't get the robustness and resilience, you're not in the game to be able to do more and build on top of it. So that has to be so robust, so clear, and everyone's common goal is that, before we then start making any change. But we're also very clear as an industry, and certainly as the operator, if you don't make change, you stand still. And in fact, back into our regulators, you incur more risk. So a real balance of how you strike that, how you plan ahead, how you think of your capabilities. And from an attraction and retention perspective, it's really about engagement, but also opportunities, development, and real excitement about what we do. I think sometimes people forget how important the similarities are, but also how important we are to businesses, to end users, to normal members of the public, to actually make sure that they have the choice, but also make sure they have the confidence when they make a payment. So, it's important you focus on that outcome, and therefore your skills to get to that outcome.
It's so critical, and I couldn't agree with you more on bringing more to the forefront the importance of organizations like ours and the critical nature of what we do. To that end, how do you guys think about ensuring that that message is out there and that maybe that education piece is out there for the ecosystem around what we do as operators of national infrastructure?
I think it's very important that we engage. We have an environment where we have two regulators, the PSR and also FMID, the Bank of England. We have all our direct customers, and then we have multiple indirect users, that go to up to 1,000 users and more. So it's really important we engage effectively. Communication's important. And I'm not saying we get that perfect all the time, but we do strive to improve and engage, and also, be very clear in our messaging. So I do spend a lot of time, as my team do, with customers. In fact, I've just came from a 2-hour customer engagement meeting we've had, and then I've been engaging with government and engaged with the regulators a lot. So that clarity, but most importantly, it comes back to that point I made earlier. You can have all the engagement, but you need to act and you need to deliver and you need to fulfill that confidence. And I think it then isn't almost about what Pay.UK being known, it's about what Pay.UK are doing so that it delivers from a point of view of the operator. And that leads into things like fraud, reducing systemic risk, and various things like that to try and really help the ecosystem and end users. Focus on that outcome again, and what are we doing it for, and what's it going to deliver, and why are we doing it? And ultimately, the outcome is critical to making sure we drive to success.
So I love this. So now we're moving a little bit forward here. Our thoughts going into outcomes and the future. David, what do you see as the greatest opportunity for your organization right now?
So we have a number of like this is where the similarities will be. We also have loads of opportunities, and those opportunities actually help you mitigate risk. So I was talking about, say, end user and protecting outcomes for end users and building confidence. So we are tackling fraud with the industry. One of the things we've been directed to do by the regulator is implement the APP reimbursement model. And that's about reimbursement to end users. But we're also focused on detection and prevention. So it's not just about the reimbursement, it's about how we can actually use our position to really help the industry. Whether that's around expanding confirmation of payee. We've done over 2 billion searches on confirmation of payee. We do about 1.9 million a day on that to protect against fraud and help with misdirected payments. But then also we're looking at enhanced fraud data exchange across the industry. And we've done a proof of concept where we agreed data sharing with a number of customers and proved that we could increase the detection of fraud substantially and also reduce the false positives. So the payments that banks were using or spending time looking at were more appropriate payments that were more likely to be fraudulent. And we reduced that from about a 10-to-1 ratio to a 5-to-1 ratio. Now, this is a proof of concept, but that's an example where stepping forward and using our position to try and help across the industry and actually reduce fraud rather than move it across the industry. We're trying to reduce it across the whole of payments. So that's some of the things where we're stepping forward and trying to push into different areas to use our position to really help.
Such important work, that fraud space. And I know we have many conversations here as well. And we look forward to watching how the UK may start to pave the way and learning from the different models that you guys are adopting as well. Are there any other last thoughts you'd like to leave with listeners on the opportunities and the role Pay.UK can play in shaping payments?
I just think the point you raised there about sharing, because I don't think anyone has all the answers globally. And also we're dealing with slightly similar but slightly different nuanced issues. So the sharing of how we go about things is really important because we can all learn from each other. And I think that's something that becomes a degree of focus. So, for example, one of the things we are working on is working with open banking to really provide an alternative to card payments. The regulators want us to achieve that. And how do we do that? And there's different models around the globe that we're learning from. We're engaging closely with open banking, our regulators and our customers to try and achieve that. And I think that's a great example of, one of the things I would really encourage is not just learning from, what we do in the UK. We need to learn what you're doing in Canada and beyond. So that sharing of success and challenges is critical.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point as well. Listen, David, it was a real pleasure having you here today and having this conversation with you. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and I look forward to continuing our conversations in the future.
Thank you.